He's a
Yeah, I
OG.
I firmly believe that when the time comes, he will be more than willing to back it up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that episode, I don't think I remembered that one. I remember when they got to the cadets, but I didn't remember that transition from the point that they got off on the boat. I didn't remember any of that. I didn't remember none of
Yeah.
that. Like that
No, I.
whole freaking Titan that ran and
Mm-hmm.
in running, just the whole street went.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was the most terrifying thing. Because I imagine myself being in the same situation, and I was like, I would think everything's hopeless too.
Yeah.
Like how you gonna survive that? Like for real, for real.
Like you're not. You're really not. Like when he dug in to run, and as soon as he took off, the amount of pressure he caused the whole block to basically crumble.
Go.
I was
Yeah.
like, dude, that's almost like Man of Steel worthy, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
because that's what I liked about, and that's actually one of the things I liked about Man of Steel. They made Superman's powers so realistic to like, look, when he does this stuff and he's doing it at the very onset, he's causing some damage, you know,
Yeah.
and the thing is, even when he's perfected it, like when he perfected it at the point of taking off amongst the military, even then he told Amy Adams, yeah, you're gonna need to back up a bit,
Back up a
or
little
which
bit.
Adams.
Yeah.
She was like, yeah, you're gonna have to back up a little further than that because they knew he knows what he can do. Because the first time he did it, I mean, he basically cracked the ground around him. You know,
Yeah.
now he can take off, but the pressure is still. And what I like is even as you go through it, even with um, Batman v Superman and Justice League, like you see it perfected to where he doesn't even need to do it anymore.
Yeah.
But especially Batman v Superman, because when he lifted off the ground after saving Lois Lane, going to fight Batman, he didn't even jump or push or anything. He just floated off. So it
Yeah.
gets better over time. But this, I mean, at his raw thing with Man of Steel, he was pushing, his limits to where eventually it got easier. But that dude, Attack on Titan, that dude is all raw. He is not, he does not care. He is
Yeah.
pushing off, and the whole block crumbled. Like not even the foundations went, like the whole block, brick by brick, just crumbled to nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of like what you said, last episode and whatever review, whatever kind of way we're gonna do this whole review thing.
Mm-hmm.
Story is you understand, Aaron's trepidation with everything's going on. You understand his trauma. You understand how his trauma turned to anger and fear mixed with just hate and malice, and it's changing him into something very refined. Where his
Yeah,
head
he's
is
Batman.
one track. He's one track mind. He's like, yo, I'm going to kill all of them. But
Right.
nobody's asking the fundamental question: how did this even happen? Where did these titans come from? How can the
Right.
titan, like, instead of like, oh, well, I'm going to pick you up as food, I'm going to go to the main source location that you can get out of, and I'm going to barrel through it. Like
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't add up. Things in this, from a story
Yeah.
standpoint, are left so ambiguous that you're like, yo, there's a
Right.
surrounding arc with all of this that somebody's not talking about, or they don't know. They don't
Right.
know.
Well, the at this point the question really becomes, well, here's the thing. What we know is that this is what we at least know is that this has been going on for more than a century,
Yeah,
because they built this whole entire uh, citadel place with the different rings of different barriers and everything, um, as a means to thwart the efforts of the Titans, which have now held for a century or more.
yeah,
And the higher you go in society, the more inside the rings you go. So
yeah,
when So, but the thing is, just like anything else in life, you eventually evolve. And, what can protect you from your current threat a century ago doesn't mean it's going to protect you now.
Yeah.
It's kind of like not spoiling anything, but it's kind of like the beginning of Ghost of Tsushima with Koda Khan. He's like, look, you know, you are a warrior. You trained for this. You've seen battle. You've seen loss, you know, and you've been refined. But while you've been sharpening your sword, I've been reading. I've been learning your language, learning your culture, learning about you. I prepared for this day. And that's
Yeah.
what they did over the process of 100 years, but they've evolved. So, because if you
Yeah.
notice, their evolution has got them to a point where they use one of their own as basically a battering ram, and everybody else just rolls on through, you know.
Yeah.
So you can't be surprised that it happened the way it happened. That's how humans themselves have laid siege to things for years.
Yeah.
Battering ram, roll on through. That's
Yeah.
so it's really crazy how where they're at right now. But what I really like about this episode um is you start to see, even in the midst of a situation that is now, I guess, technically global, where it's not just between them, but it's them against the Titans. You still have this social economic class, you know, that where these people, especially that one dude who was basically looking down upon them because they're from the lower the outer rings, if you will, and he's
Yeah.
throwing all this shade, and I'm like, dude, at this point, you like any, and that's, I always tell people this, look, it don't matter if I'm standing next to a president, I'm standing next to a general. We all made the same way. God forbid, knock on wood, a bullet ain't your medallion, your medals, and my degrees are not gonna stop a bullet. We are all the same. We can all
Yeah.
go the same way. So I, I
Yeah.
I find it interesting that there's still this social economic class that's still happening in the midst of this thing that is much bigger than either of them or anyone else there. You know.
Yeah. I mean, you can take, our current societal situation now, this pandemic, it's the same situation. I mean,
Yeah.
like people disregard, but yet at the same time, there's still one finite thing. This virus don't care what you are. It doesn't
Yeah.
care what status you are. It's coming for blood, and
Anybody
it's
can
kind of
get
like
it.
these titans are coming for everything.
Yeah.
And again, it's like I understand where Aaron's coming from. I even understand where the soldier that was kind of like, he was in perpetual fear. He was like, bro,
Mm.
I don't know. But at the end of the day, like they both are right and justified in the way they're feeling. But it's kind of like somebody's gonna have to get smarter, because if something doesn't change, if they don't change course and try to come to some kind of equilibrium with either getting smarter or stronger, they're not going to survive. It's just
Yeah,
not,
they're not.
not
They're
going to
not.
happen.
There needs to be a major course correction. And if there's no major course correction, there's going to be a problem. And
Yeah.
uh but real quick, even on the social economic class thing, when they talked about those 846 people that went back out there to reclaim Walmaria, those were all refugees. I promise you, none of them cats was from the inner circle.
Exactly.
None of them cats was from the
Exactly.
inner, no, nobody from that inner circle where that dude who was throwing all that shade was like, yo, let's go out there and help them get that part back. Nah,
Yeah.
nah. And that's one of our biggest problems. Like, yo, you dealing with that. Look, that is no different than us trying to go into another country now as Americans. They're like, nah, nah, you can stay right where you at, you know. So that's really where it is right now. But I I remember this episode. One of the main reasons I remember this episode wasn't just for the dude. I remember because the dude bust through that wall, no problem. But it was one of those things. What I like about this episode is that the first episode, the shock value just takes you to that level. And then
Yeah.
the second episode, the second episode doesn't really give you a moment to really breathe. You
No,
know,
not at all.
it gives you a hot second for that dude's emotions and his friend seeing him what he's going through and everything. But as soon as that happens, you got my man Rick busting through the wall. Like it's like, oh, don't you're not coming back down. You're still staying here at 50,000 feet. We're gonna keep you on high real quick. You know, then after all that, you're gonna see because then you see all the major things that happen. It's basically survival instincts have kicked in. They're trying to shut down that wall. Not that it matters, but they're trying to shut down the wall. They're like the need. Look, they're basically on some Leonard Nimoy right now. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And the thing
Yep.
is, the Titans are like, look, many or few, it don't matter. We coming up in here. You're not
Yeah.
stopping anything at this point. You know.
Yeah.
So they're going to when it all boils down and he really goes in, it's going to be interesting to see how all that plays out. Not that we haven't seen it, but yeah, I'm just waiting for you to get past the point where you basically called it a wrap, because at that point I really want to see your reactions at that after that, because when you're like, yeah, no, I'm done, I'm like, nah, don't be done, man. That's where it gets really interesting, but I really want to see what's going to happen at that point.
Yeah, I can already say that this is an amazing series. It's beautiful to watch. It's terrifying to understand and get a real grasp of what's going on. And I'm excited to kind of go through it regardless. And like Ty said, like coming off the last episode is kind of like you got a minute to breathe, but then it's kind of like I guess looking at the main character, like he went through that circumstance, and in the second episode, it's kind of like, you know what, I'm going to push past this, and whatever means that looks like. And I think it's gonna be really interesting to see what kind of person Aaron becomes after all of this, because he already was foolhardy. He was already like, not listening to anybody, picking fights, talking trash. But I really am curious to see what kind of a person he actually becomes, because I think we saw, was it this episode or was it the end of the last episode where the dad was trying to get back in time before anything happened. Of course, he didn't make it. So
of course he didn't make it. Yeah.
And then Aaron had this weird flashback of something going on with the dad. It just seemed really weird.
Right. And I couldn't tell if that was him or his mother that was fighting the dad off with the needle, because it kind of sounded like him and it kind of sounded like his mother.
Yeah, I don't know, but
yeah, I can't remember. It's been a while since I've watched it.
There's definitely a lot of mystery there, so we'll see. We're gonna go get some sleep. It's late. Hope y'all enjoyed the reaction in this review. I don't know how I'm gonna crop this, edit. I might just upload the review and then put the reaction somewhere else. I don't know. We'll see. I'll talk to you guys a bit later on. Thanks for coming, Ty. Keep it locked, JBS Wayne.
No doubt. Signing
These
on.
guys.
All right.